Chapter 3 The Marsh Amaras. After the previous mention of Kelowna, Rose had assumed she was close to it. Perhaps that was a bad idea to do so. Even then, the promise of a village and civilization sounded like a paradise after being in the swamplands. Her eyes can't help but twitch after being dragged through 10 minutes of parkour and limbo practice only to be greeted by a village in a swamp. Damn it. Thankfully, that long and well-practiced smile finds its way to save the day as she offers a warm smile to Prom. My thanks for guiding me here. Who knows how long I'd been lost in the swamps without your help. Prom, still holding Rose by the hand, responds. You're welcome. We should go and see my brother first. His name is Saṃsāra. He'll be able to make you feel better. The young goblin leads Rose across the bridge, waving at a bunch of villagers who are giving Rose, the outsider, a sceptical look. Prom doesn't wait for a response as she begins climbing up the well-worn staircase. Thankfully, there aren't too many steps. Disembarking on the first flight of stairs to enter a nearby cabin, Rose follows after her. Immediately, Rose is hit with the smell of hornroot and crimson nettle, herbs she would never have been able to put a name to before if she hadn't lived in Sally's company for decades, and the scent borders on nostalgia. Of course, it's not Sally's alchemy station. However, there are telltale baskets full of herbs and jars of pickled miscellany and surgical implements on top of rattan furniture. There is a male goblin tending to a concoction with a mortar and pestle. He looks up at the two of them as they enter. Ah, Prom, there you are. He puts down his pestle and stands up with a metallic clunk, as one of his legs is clearly made of metal. You brought guests? Yes, Prom responds. This is Rose. She saved me from getting gobbled by a crocodile. She presents Rose with two hands, with much fanfare. Rose smiles and raises his hand in greeting. I tried my best. Pleasure to meet you. Rose can't help but look around the area. It's not exactly a high-end store, but this is a goblin's home. Regardless, she smiles at it fondly, thinking of Sally's progress over the years. The older goblin is stunned for a few seconds before sighing. A crocodile? He looks toward Rose and her bloody torso before wincing. Yes, I think I can see that. I wonder you're still alive. Does it hurt anywhere? Rose looks down at herself, not realizing just how bloodied she looks. Well, thanks to the potion Prom gave me, I'm mostly fine for now. Though definitely still feeling like I've tangled with a crocodile recently. Prom responds. You should check her head. I think the croc bit her so hard she forgot some things. Saṃsāra sighs for a moment. All right, sit down. I'll have a look. As for you, Saṃsāra reaches down and grabs Prom by her ponytail with a stern expression, yanking it side to side as if uprooting a stubborn carrot. Why were you out so far? His tone is long-suffering and reprimanding. I told you it was crocodile season. What would you do if you ended up as some lizard's dinner? Prom squeaks and whines. There were cinder pearls nearby. You said you were running out, as she trails off sheepishly. And there were also jelly fungus. Yes, but not in these conditions, Saṃsāra responds. Do I have to put you on a leash for my own peace of mind? Eventually, the sternness eases up as he sighs. But I'm glad you're safe. Go get our guest some tea, will you? She looks a little remorseful. Okay, I'm sorry, brother. But quickly bounces back as she smiles at Rose, seemingly not her first reprimand. I'll go get some tea. Saṃsāra turns back to Rose as Prom bounces off to the kitchen, but not before gathering some ointment and some tools from a nearby bench. Sorry about that. Prom is only 4, a brilliant mind when it comes to alchemy, but still young. Thanks for looking out for my sister. Rose can't help but smile warmly at the exchange. No thanks needed, only doing what any good citizen would do. She pauses for a moment. She reminds me of my younger self, always throwing caution to the wind, adventuring with reckless abandon. She'll be just fine. Also, don't worry about the ointment. I didn't hit my head. I'm just a stranger in these lands, so it was easier to tell her I forgot than explain my situation, which is still confusing for myself. Saṃsāra pauses before he puts his tools away. Oh, well, you definitely sound more Gradian than Kelowna, at any rate. What brings you here to the wetlands? Marsh Amaras is not exactly popular with tourists. Rose chuckles awkwardly. Well, that's the fun part. I don't know. It was not my choice to come here. I just woke up and found myself here yesterday. I have no recollection of how I ended up here, nor do I know how long it's been. Skirting the truth is likely the best way to deal with these kinds of questions for now. Sealing arches a dubious eyebrow at her, lips thinning in concern. That's rather vague. He holds up 3 fingers. How many fingers am I holding up? If you feel the left of your face drooping, let me know. Rose responds, straight-faced. 3. It's vague because I'm not sure how much information is safe to offer in a place I have no knowledge of, especially after Prom has told me of some people in white robes who visit occasionally. Sealing regards her with a measured gaze. It's a bit suspicious, but you don't seem to be lying, and you did save my sister from becoming lunch. He takes a deep breath as he puts one arm on his metal leg. You're safe here, mostly. Some people still have negative sentiment towards the Gradians, but the war's been over for 240 years. The only ones who really harbour any sort of feeling are those who are old enough to remember it. Besides, the Orate Illuminants don't care where you're from. Rose shakes her head. No doubt people have negative sentiment towards anyone they war against. What can you tell me about this Orate Illuminants? It's not something I've heard of before. She makes extra effort to watch for the reaction upon hearing this. Is it something everyone should know? Has it been around long enough and no one can escape it? Is it some all-seeing eye? He raises another eyebrow. Then you must have been either sleeping under a rock or you don't read the news. You can't really scratch your nose without your arm bumping into one of them. He nods towards the window, shining with the subdued light of the golden tree. Even here some of its branches are visible in the sky. It's the main religion in Kilna, which is where we are, he adds, just in case Rose has forgotten that too. Hard not to be when the big tree is smack dab in the middle of the capital. Their missionaries come by sometimes to spread the words with their holy texts in their hands. If you see a fancy tree sigil, that's them. He draws something in the air resembling a 5-forked prong. They're a decent bunch, sometimes. They help out people here on occasion. Some of them can be overzealous with their proselytizing. Haven't seen them around lately, though, come to think of it. He chuckles. I guess crocodile season's good for something. Rose chuckles slightly. Let's go with sleeping under a rock, she says, fully truthfully. I see. I'll keep that in mind. Kilna has definitely changed since I last saw it. I think that's likely where I'll be heading to after some rest. Hopefully I can avoid any missionaries along the way, but if your words are accurate, that's likely to be a difficult task. She looks out at the tree once more. What could be there that she was told to go there? Questions for later. But Sealing pauses. We are already in Kilna. He can't help but look at her with some concern. These wetlands make up most of Kilna. I don't know when you last looked at a map, but it's bigger than you give it credit for. If you're looking for the capital of Monday, however, that's still some ways away. Rose pauses for a moment. Perhaps this will be a way to clarify the year. The last time I looked at a map, it was some time ago. Remind me. What year is it again on the Terrian calendar? I'm always getting them mixed up. Sealing narrows his eyes at the handwritten calendar at the furthest wall on the hut. 760. 11th of mid-year. I wouldn't use that in the capital, however. They like their Lumian dates there. Rose decides it's time to be honest again, watching for any indication that Sealing will try to use this against her, or for their own gain. 760, that's right. Then it's been about 300 years since I last looked at a map or saw Kilna in person. Sealing crosses his arms as he once again eyes her with genuine medical concern. Right. His eyes flicker to Rose's head, then to her bloody clothes. Bad intention seems to be the furthest things on his mind. Instead, he seems like he's wondering whether to humour her or to do his job properly as an apothecary. Are you sure you don't want me to check your head? Rose shrugs at this. You can feel free, but I just woke up from a 300-year nap. Wouldn't that explain why I don't know anything? I didn't even know there was another calendar until Prom told me about it. She sighs. If you don't believe me, then that's fine, though I ask you, keep that information to yourself. He pauses for a moment. A 300-year nap. Not a vampire. Or an elf, by the looks of it. His gaze turns towards a garlic braid hanging next to some shelves as he places his fingertips on her cranium. Well, it's really none of my business, just don't cause any trouble here. Or snack on some necks as a midnight treat, I guess. He gently feels about her skull with calloused fingers, checking for any damage. He sits back down, eyebrows still knitted with confusion, but a slight ease to them. Well, any other questions, Sleeping Beauty? 300 years is quite a lot to miss out on. There's a short pause from Rose. Yeah, everyone I know is likely dead. There's a giant tree in a place that never used to have a tree, a new calendar, a religious sect, a war, and literally no idea what information from my previous life is safe to share or not. She sighs, but continues on. I share this with you because you seem like you actually want to help, but I understand it's a lot. Also, she reaches back into her pack and takes out Hugh's doll. Can you hear this talk? Hughes, will you say something, please? There's a long pause as the doll does not speak. Sealang pauses for a moment with a look of pity on his face. You do seem to be out of sorts. How about you have some tea and some food and settle down for a bit? I'll try and answer one question at a time until you get your bearings. Rose pulls in Hugh's doll really close to her face as she squints her eyes and screws up her face. I'll remember this, you piece of shit, before stashing him away again. Yeah, out of sorts is an understatement. I have a lot to catch up on. I appreciate you not just calling me insane and throwing me in the swamp. I wouldn't blame you. Sealang watches as she throws seemingly unwarranted aggression to the poor inanimate object, glancing to the kitchen as he does so. It's fine. I've seen and heard much worse from drunk people. After a moment, Prome returns bringing out some frothy tea and marmalade on bread. Rose responds shortly after. So, I've been advised to seek the tree for guidance. Are you knowledgeable as to why that might be? Again, I've never been, so I'm curious as to the reasoning. Sealang gives a short thanks to Prome for the food and drink before turning back to Rose. Let me guess, you bumped into one of the Illuminates and that's what they told you? If so, then I'm not surprised. They think the tree holds the answers to everything. The Aureate Sophist, or the Golden Thinker. That's what it means, in short. They take its wisdom as gospel. Rose attempts to make it obvious to Sealang, given their conversation, that she's wording things in a way as to not give too much information to Prome. I see. Thank you. Coming from a faraway land, what is the pantheon of gods like in Kelna? Sealang throws a quick glance to Rose. That's a pretty controversial question, though. For most purposes, they don't exist in anywhere but old textbooks. Her face clearly shows a little distress at the idea of her divine sugar daddy suddenly being removed, or illegal. Perhaps it's best not to ask any more questions about that in the moment. That explains a lot, and also leaves more questions. If you have a library or a place with some old texts that cover, the last few centuries, I'd love to have a look around, get the lay of the land, learn the local history before waltzing into a place I know nothing about and start offending people. He seems to take notice of Rose's distress. History? On the old gods? That's the problem. Depending on the person, that topic might get you funny looks at best, or land you in a mundane cell at worst. It's a theocracy, after all. Me? I don't care if there's a god of pastries or a god of malpractice, but most people have an opinion on this sort of stuff. Still, ignoring all of that, we're in a swamp, if you haven't noticed. It's not exactly the best place for a lot of books to hang out. Rose sighs with a defeated undertone. I see. I suppose that makes sense then. I shall steer clear of the topic. Sad to hear about the lack of a library, though. You never know where you're going to find any hidden gems. She looks around, not one for just taking, even if it's just information. Is there anything I can do to repay your hospitality, answering my questions and looking after my health? It's fine, he says, waving his hand. You got this little knucklehead out of trouble. It's the least I could do. Just stay out of trouble. The goblin looks out the window. Anyway, if you're planning to make it to the capital, you won't be making it there today. I'm guessing you don't have a place to stay either. We've got nothing here but surgery beds, but it's better than roughing it out in the open. Rose smiles at the offer. I'd appreciate that. Some solid shelter would go a long way. I'd be out of your hair the next morning, but again, I don't like to be dead weight, so if there's even menial things I can be doing, don't hesitate to ask. He nods. If you're really dead set on it, then, seeing how you've tussled with a crocodile and survived, I assume you know your way around with a knife. Many people here subsist on what they catch at the end of the line, but any red meats and hides are welcome additions at the stalls. If you feel well enough for an extra bit of hunting, you could get a tidy sum, as well as shave down the lizard population. That'll stop any future brats from getting gobbled up by any errant crocs. He stares very pointedly at Prome, who shrinks away guiltily. I do have a handful of lizard meats and skins from 2 that tried to have at me yesterday. I think I smoked the meats well enough that they should still be good. Rose pulls out a pack of meats wrapped in lizard skins. Stuff like this? I don't mind hunting a few more if I could sell some and get a nice bow and arrows, but, well, I'm much better at range than I am up close. Sealing inspects the meat with a curious look. Not sure about the meat. They don't take cooked meats for safety reasons. But those skins look to be in decent shape to be tanned. Blorg definitely has a stock of arrows and a bow or 2. You might as well give him a visit. Rose shrinks slightly. Will do, but I'm not sure on the going rates. A straight trade or better to buy and sell. She says this with the green face of a trading novice. Dropped 300 years into the future, has inflation made platinum what copper used to be? Are we trading in bottle caps? She questions herself. Sealing responds. I don't know what he prefers. That son of a badger still owes me 15 gold and has dodged me ever since. You'll have to go and find out for yourself. Puffing out her cheeks, Rose exhales harshly. All right. Can you direct me to a tanner and to Blorgs? I'll see what I can do. Prome eagerly volunteers for the job before Sealing could speak another word. It's 2 stairs above us. Go right and find the stall with the funny orange colour. The leather maker is right next to him. Rose smiles like a mother proud of her child. She pats Prome gently on the head, ruffling her hair slightly. Thank you, Prome. I'll go and see them. But at the ruffling of her hair, Prome vibrates violently as she squeals. There's a look of dread on Sealing's face. Oh dear, here we go. Rose immediately notices this and stops upon hearing Sealing. She's unleashed something and she can feel it. Time to leave. I'll be back shortly, as Rose quickly exits the hut. Upon climbing the stairs, she can hear the screaming banshee below. 2 stairs up and a turn to the right, find the stall with the funny orange awning, manned by a bugbear smoking a pipe. Next to him is the tanner's. There's a lizard folk in there, in the middle of tanning lizard hide. Rose approaches the lizard folk who owns the tanner's, gently knocking on whatever she can to make her presence known. Excuse me, I was directed here by Sealing about selling a couple of lizard skins I had hunted yesterday. The bipedal lizard turns its head towards you, waiting to see your quadrupedal lizard remains. Yes? Sealing? Friend? Skins? Show. Rose presents the folded skins to the tanner, awaiting their appraisal in hopes that it would be enough to get her a bow. The tanner unfolds the skins, giving them a good inspection, their tongue flickering out in satisfaction. Putting the hides on a rack, the lizard pulls 16 gold coins out and places them in Rose's hands. At a glance, the design is different than what she's used to. Satisfied that she's getting an all-right price, she nods and thanks. My thanks. I plan to go out hunting tonight, so I may return with more tonight or tomorrow. Are there any hides or skins you have a need for? I can keep an eye out for something in particular if you need. The lizard folk tanner turns, regarding her with a shiny-eyed stare. More lizards, crocodiles, snakes. Good eating. They pause for a moment. Illuminates. They let out a staggered hiss as if they were laughing. Rose can't tell if they're being serious or not. However, she nods along at the first suggestions. Pretty standard. Upon hearing good eating, she waits a moment to continue talking, but is hit with the whiplash at the uncertain seriousness of the request of the Illuminates. She decides not to question. Good eating. Do you also deal with meats? I can harvest as well. The lizard points across to a stall 10 steps away. Meats. Leave whole. No skinning. Rose offers a thumbs up. Got it. I'll hopefully see you soon. She bows her head slightly in thanks before heading next door to Blorg's for a bow and some arrows. Introducing herself again. Hello there. I was suggested to inquire here to purchase a longbow and some arrows from Sealing. Blorg puffs out smoke from his flat nostrils and snorts. 25 gold, he says in the heaviest chain smoker voice she's ever heard. 5 silver for 20 arrows. Rose nods. Sure, she says with confidence. She's basically a millionaire. She reaches into her pack where she has her bag of holding and... oh, realization hits. I have 16 gold. She thinks for a moment. Rose attempts to be as self-sufficient as possible. I'm going out hunting for skins and meats. A bow and arrows would be preferable over this dagger. Is there anything in my backpack you'd consider for exchange to cover the cost? The bugbear peers into the bag, not expecting much. Axe, not bad. 8 gold. Rations, also good. 1 gold each. He's specifically pointing to the pemmican and hardtack. Taking out the axe and 2 rations, she places them upon the table with the 16 gold. Is this a good enough trade for 1 bow and 2 sets of arrows? The bugbear grunts with affirmation. The trade is made. She hands over the items enthusiastically, letting out a breath of relief to be equipped with a bow once more. Not nearly to the level that she had long ago, but it's a bow. Blorg takes the axe, the coins, and the rations as he sniffs them. Smells like white robes, fancy foodstuffs. Did you kill him dead too? He laughs horribly. Who's to say? Rose says. I found these rations in an abandoned camp. You're not the first to ask about killing these white robes. She grins and leans in, playing into the joke to find out if it's a joke or not. Why? Is there a bounty? Something worth taking? Her tone is 70% sarcastic, just to see what they say. Anything worth taking, the bugbear responds. They're bleeding hearts. Ask around here, girlie. Half of them slummers will tell you the same. Rose just smiles at this. I'll keep it in mind. Thanks again for the bow and arrows. I appreciate it. She waves off and decides to make haste back to the crocodiles. Free leathers. No bitching. With an eye for the hunt, Rose stealths through the swamp, following Prome's trail. Now that she's been through here once before, the journey back seems shorter than it did before. Scaling down a few rocks and hopping through a few ponds, she makes her way back to the dead tree where the crocodile was harassing a tiny goblin no more than a few hours ago. The crocodile is still there, submerged in the water next to the tree, but there's now a large constrictor snake bumming about its corpse. It looks like it's about to snack on your kill as easy pickings. Rose positions herself as far away as possible where she's able to get a clean shot, preferably in a tree. Taking aim and trying to take down the snake as quickly as possible, she rolls a nat 20. The snake doesn't stand a chance. Readying her arrow, she snipes from a covered distance, hitting the giant snake square between the eyes and through to the other side. It lets out an angry hiss before it flops over and collapses on top of the crocodile. The doll finally speaks from the backpack. Looks like that's the one thing that hasn't atrophied over the years. Rose scoffs at this. Oh, now you feel like talking, you fucker? Just felt like making me look crazy, huh? Rose makes her way over to the 2 kills, ensuring nothing's going to pop out and make lunch of her before butchering the croc and packaging the snake whole. What, a man can't fucking stew for a few hours on his lonesome? You're not the only one who's had their ass kicked into the next century. Rose scoffs at this. Don't act like you had a reason. You don't want to talk around people who could see you doing so. You're telling me if I was in a stall taking a shit, you wouldn't call out and say, "Hey, she's dropping a log in here," just to have a laugh? She says this with jest in her voice. There's no malice in this conversation. At least, from her. Yeah, maybe I didn't have a reason. I was just fucking around, and I'll do so on the shitter too. Unlike her, there's genuine agitation in his voice that he's trying not to hide. She pauses, able to tell something's off, and sighs. Perhaps we're both a bit high-strung given the circumstances. Evidently you do have a reason. Do you want to talk about it? Or are you still the same evasive Hughes I know and love? She ends with that, trying to goad him into actually saying something. There's a long, uncomfortable pause before Hughes parrots her exact words. Everyone I know is dead. But it looks like it's just hit Hughes. Rose stops her butchering of the croc for a few seconds as she hears it. She knows it as well, but it doesn't make it sting any less. Yeah, perhaps Sally's still kicking around. I plan on saving for a sending scroll, see if I can reach out to her other than that. She goes back to butchering in silence unless Hughes decides to talk more. The doll says nothing more as Rose continues butchering. Perhaps it's because of the dimming light overhead or the weight of the conversation, but Rose finds herself failing to butcher, seemingly struggling to keep her concentration. Unfortunately, destroying all of the leathers in the process, but taking a lot of good meat and some teeth that will be good for selling. About £176 in total. Noting that she's butchered far too much, she packages about £100 of meat in a pack before scattering the rest around as bait for the next morning. Seems this area is relatively populated, so it might serve well to come back tomorrow for more hunting. With the teeth and meat ready, Rose heads back to the village to sell her spoils. Noting that it seems everything is about to close, she clambers back up as quickly as possible to the butcher's to pawn off her fresh meat. She arrives just in time. An elderly goblin seems to be closing up store until she notes Rose coming. My, you're a tall one. Could smell the meat on you a mile away. What do you have for me? As soon as all the meats are plopped onto the table, she leers over them with a twinkle in her glassy eye. Fresh as the day they were born. This one's still steaming hot. Snake and croc? You got an eye for hunting, you do. Fellas will be glad to have gator steak instead of coffee for once. How's 180 gold for the lot? The relief of making it just in time and also getting a decent payday hits like the hardest dopamine she's felt in years. That would be excellent, thank you. I plan on doing some more hunting tomorrow as well. Hopefully I can back with some spoils just as good. Taking her leave with her coin pouch full, she heads back down to the cabin with Sealang and Prom. Prom seems to be sitting down waiting for food to arrive, kicking her legs and drooling. She turns to Rose as she enters. Hi Rose. Brother says dinner will be ready shortly, but you should wipe yourself down first. He doesn't like stinky people at the dinner table. There's a disembodied voice coming from the kitchen. I never said that. Clothes. Wiping cloth and warm water on the table next to the window. Change. Clean up. The head sticks out of the kitchen. Your clothes stick out too much. Rose glances down at herself. I don't know what you're talking about. Bright blue and white and predominantly green environment is perfect camouflage, she says sarcastically. My thanks. I'll clean up and change. I could definitely do with that after these past 2 days. Taking the clothes, she looks them over. Will they fit her? She can make do. Getting clean is the most important part. The old tunic that Rose has handed is definitely not prom-sized, closer to Sealang's, though they are tall for goblins, so it would fit with a couple of adjustments. As directed, Rose goes down to change in a secluded corner, wipe off, and get some privacy. As she changes and comes back, heading to the hut, no longer smelling like a butcher's room. There's 3 plates on the dining table, what looks to be boiled crawfish served over white rice and mushroom sauce. Packing her bloody clothes away for later, Rose sits down at the table, assuming the 3rd portion is for her. An alchemist and a cook. Quite skilled hands you have there. My thanks again for taking me in today and looking after me. I truly appreciate it. As they begin to eat, Rose does speak more. I do plan on doing another round of hunting in the morning to bolster some gold before taking my leave in the afternoon. I'm not one for causing trouble or getting in amongst other people's business, so you needn't worry about me, attracting too much attention. Sealang does look up to Rose upon hearing this. If you're here till afternoon, I would advise staying out of the Elder's vision. She's one of the ones old enough to remember the war, and, well, your accent doesn't leave much to the imagination. If you're out hunting, I would appreciate some gator steak. Rose nods at this. Mouth shut. Gator steak. Got it. She reaches into her coin pouch. I didn't think, because it seemed like everything was closing, but I did sell some croc and snake to the butchers upstairs. As a thanks. She places 10 gold onto the table. This is the least I can do. Perhaps get you some nice meals with that? He looks at the coins, seemingly wrestling with some decision. I can't just... Yeah. All right. Thank you. He nods in appreciation as he pockets the gold. Rose continues the conversation. So I can't help but notice that the tanner and Blorg upstairs made some jokes about paying for the skin and hearts of the Illuminates. Is it a joke, or is there something going on here that I should know about? He groans, pinching the bridge of his nose. They couldn't not be psychotic for 2 seconds. To keep a long story short, nobody ends up in the Marsh Amaras because they want to. Those 2 in particular are outlaws. Blorg's in for bloodsport, and Bagu, he wrinkles his nose, eats his own kind. The Illuminates have a hand in enforcing the law in Kelowna. Even if not completely by themselves, you'll find a good chunk of people here who have a bone to pick with the Illuminates. Rose pauses for a second. I see. I suppose that makes sense. Then, forgive my asking, but what keeps you both here? Sealang snap responds. Theft. He says this, shrugging like it was no big deal. Was supposed to only lay low here for a few months, but then a gator decided he liked the taste of goblin leg. Medical knowledge keeps one indispensable in communities like these, however. He nods towards the younger goblin. Prolm was born here. Rose doesn't seem to bat an eye at the theft comment. Can't say I didn't have a history with theft when I was younger, so I can understand. I suppose if you find a place in a community, then it makes it harder to leave. I'll make sure to take another croc out in revenge for you tomorrow. Sealang muses with a wry smile. Oh, because a lizard cannibal and a toothless badger are such neighbours to die for. Try not to ruin my shirt, at least. Rose pauses at this. I mean, if you want out, I can help get you out, she says before taking a bite with a straight tone. Don't worry, now that I have a bow and arrow, I don't need to get within teeth range anymore. Prolm pounces on the opportunity. You will? You'll take us to Monday? There are sparkles of hope in her eye, but Sealang flashes a sudden tense look towards Rose. She can see him mouthing, not now, later. Taking the hint, Rose responds. Maybe in future when I've been myself, only to make sure that it's safe first. People are talking a lot about the people there being quite scary. Prolm pipes down at that, scrunching up her face. She looks like she has something on her mind, but is currently shoveling down the thought with more sauce-covered rice. After the meal, it's time for bed. For the night, Sealang's given Rose temporary use of the surgery beds, if beds meant an elevated wooden bench. Prolm waves a happy good night as her and Sealang go to their respective rooms. With the intent of getting up early for the hunt, Rose wastes no time trying to get some sleep. It's already been more of a slog these past 2 days than she's felt in all of her years. Taking Hughes out and giving him a look and a nod, she sets him up for the watch, assuming he doesn't want to say anything. But after a moment he does. So, this bumfuck wasteland is Kelna, huh? Rose responds. Was. See what happens when you're not around to take out the tree huggers? The doll laughs at this. Then everyone here's been slacking this entire time. She imagines the doll to survey its surroundings for a while. No sugar daddy. Kelna looking like Nessie's home. It's an improvement. The joke is half-hearted. What next? He asks. Rose lets out a long-drawn exhale. I was told to go to the tree shortly before you came to life. Last words from Sugar Daddy, so I suppose that's what I should do. Probably also avoid the white cloaks, taking a page from your book. Ah, he responds. Follow the words of one white robe and avoid the words of the other. Solid plan. Rose can hear the smirk that would have been there. See you in the morning, Peanut. Rose lets out a soft chuckle. Yes, the irony is not lost on me. See you soon, as Rose attempts to find some sleep. And with the exertions of the previous day, sleep sinks in, thick as syrup. Eventually, the light of the sofas glazes over her closed eyes, even under the comfort of a solid roof, but that's not what wakes her up. Light, silent footsteps are attempting to sneak behind her, and they seem to be hovering right next to her. The last time someone snuck up on her, she got sent 300 years into the future. With this new PTSD, Rose would spring out of bed in the direction of her gear and try to grab her dagger while also looking to see who's sneaking up on her. With the dagger but inches away from her face, Rose finds Prolm, who's in stunned silence with a sheepish look, the Hughes doll in her hands. Hi, I'm Hughes. Go fuck yourself. Prolm squeaks as she drops the doll. With her heart rate still high, she drops the dagger in a sigh of relief. Order above! Don't scare me like that. You've got some silent footsteps on you, Prolm. I thought someone was about to attack me. Holding the doll up to her eye level. I'm sorry, I wasn't going to hit you, I promise. I just wanted to look at it. With the adrenaline wearing off, Rose sits on the edge of the bed once more, letting out a heavy sigh. Yeah, sure. He says some naughty words, though. I know, Prolm says, smiling as she dangles the doll by his arm. I heard him call the crocodile a dirty orcish word. Brother says I'm not allowed to use that word. Rose groans slightly, realizing that she could have just asked Prolm if she could hear Hughes speak. Oh, so he can be heard by other people. That's nice to know, isn't it, Hughes? The doll responds. Sure, it says in its uncanned voice. Thanks for proving that little Peanut hasn't gone fully peanutty in the youthful years. Prolm laughs at this. He's funny. Can I keep him? Rose groans. Sadly, no. This is a doll of my adopted father from when I was very young. He's the only connection I have to my past life, she says with a slightly sad face. Oh, she says, then looks at the doll, maybe not fully understanding Rose's words. Where are your horns? Rose responds, I don't have any. He adopted me. I was an orphan. Prome's face seems to tense up at this. Orphan. I know that word. I'm also one. She doesn't seem that hung up about it. She gives the doll back. I won't take your daddy doll away then. Prome tilts her head for a second with an innocent grin. Are you going to go and hunt again today? Can you get me a frog? Rose responds. Sure, I can try and find some. Also going to look for smaller snakes and more lizards. She nods with a smile before she realizes and double checks. Wait, do you want a live frog? Prome's visibly drooling. Fried frog's legs are tasty. Hughes chortles. Nothing but food in this little scamp's mind, huh? Rose laughs as well. Yeah, remind you of anyone, Hughes? Sure, I'll get you a frog. I suppose I'm awake now, so I might as well get ready to go. Rose waves goodbye to Prome and Sea Lang as she's heading out into the swamp. She yoinks unsuspecting prey up with the ease of a certain Floridian wildlife enthusiast. By the time she's done, she's netted herself 5 snakes and 3 5-legged frogs, all in the span of 10 minutes. Rose returns to the previous spot that she had baited with the excess meat from the previous night, taking out another 2 giant lizards while getting bitten in the leg in the process. Over hunting again, she realizes that she can only pack up a certain amount of food, and she gets to butchering. With her freshly hunted bounty, she gets to lugging towards back to the marsh. The journey to and fro already feels faster than it did initially. Perhaps her legs and stamina are getting back to where they used to be, slowly but surely. As she heads back, she notes some heavy footsteps in the mud. 2 humanoids by the looks of it. They look to be heading in the direction of the village. Well, hopefully I'll run into them and they won't be any trouble. Wouldn't that be nice? She follows the tracks loosely back to the village. As she approaches, there are 2 metal-clad knights standing a few minutes from the entrance of the village, very obviously clad in white robes. They seem to be setting up a camp, with utilities very similar to the ones she had on her first night here. Rose thinks to herself, smile and wave, I've got business to attend to, and these jabronis will only slow me down if I go over to them. Continuing to walk towards the village with her haul, she walks by, not too far, not too close to arouse any suspicion, only offering a wave and a nod if they look in her direction. However, the Illuminates who take notice have different priorities. Halt, young miss. One of them holds out a pan. I have not seen you here in these parts before. What is your business? The doll can be heard in her backpack. Oh, great. Jehovah's Witnesses. If they start preaching, just gut my buttons out. Rose attempts to respond, but begins chuckling at Hughes's comment. She turns back to face the White Cloaks. Of course, they'd feel the need to stop her. She tries her best to imitate the local accent to act as inconspicuous as possible. However, she rolls an @1. Hunting, gathering, skins and meats for the local tanner and butcher, making a living. The knight lowers his gaze into hers. Through the helmet, she can see 2 golden pupils staring back. I've been visiting these swamps for years, the man says, straightening his posture once more. I know an attempt at mimicry when I hear one. However, we are missionaries of the Holy See of Monday. Thus, we are not here to persecute, merely inquire. Rose clicks her tongue at herself. Damn, I thought I did really well. But the answer is the same. Hunting, collecting some coin, moving on. The knight looks down again. A wandering hunter, then. You're quite some ways away from Grad. He muses over her answer a little longer. Regardless of your origin or profession, we would advise caution setting off around these parts. The connection bridge to the mainland is overrun with swamp wildlife and the like. Rose gives a thanks for the warning, giving a nod and smiling and waving, and moves on to sell her bounty. First things first, she legs it to the stalls, which are now unexpectedly full. The butcher's got a bit of a queue. Seems like the word has gone out that gator steak's on the menu, and most of the denizens are chomping at the bit to get some fresh red meat before they go on to the smoker. Blorg's stall and the tanner didn't get as much attention, not that they seemed to mind. Noting that the butcher's is full, Rose heads to the tanner first. 2 pristine sets of lizard skin will fetch nicely and add to the coffers. Upon placing them upon the table, the tanner notes that Rose appears to have gotten in a scuffle during her hunt, and slinks back to bring out 2 sets of leather armour, one spiked and one not. Making a deal because Punk is back, Rose pays an extra 32 gold and 7 silver for the privilege of rocking out in Punk, trading over her leathers and teeth and some other small items. After the deal is made, Rose heads over to the butcher's to offer what meat she's willing to part with, besides the stuff she promised for Prome. The deal is struck and 165 gold meets her hands. A nice bounty indeed. Once Rose returns to Sealing's hut, it seems that Prome is slinging trivia questions at Sealing in an effort to keep herself entertained. Sealing looks exhausted. And in an attempt to take some burden off of Sealing, Rose hangs 2 frogs in her hands as she calls out to Prome. "Look what I got!" Prome snaps her head towards Rose, and in that moment her bright eyes contained all the stars visible in the galaxy. She opens her mouth, ready to screech. Sealing instinctively cups her mouth as if he was trained his whole life to do so, to stop the noise from escaping. Eventually, the noise dies down and Rose hands over the 2 frogs. The excitable Prome looks at one and says, "I will call you Kermit." With a smile and a sigh, Rose turns to Sealing. "I think I'll be leaving today." "I see," he says, glancing at Prome before looking back to Rose. On that note then, a word with you, in private." He gestures to the kitchen. They walk through. Sealing turns back to ensure that Prome is sufficiently occupied before closing the door and turning to Rose. "I'd like you to take Prome to Mundi with you." However, Rose doesn't hesitate as she responds. "And what about you?" He shrugs, looking down to his metal leg. "I won't be going, obviously. Not yet, anyway." There's a mild concern on Rose's face. "You don't think going along with company would be better and safer? Prome seems like a real handful. I'm not sure she'll be safe with me." Sealing turns to boil the kettle before turning back to Rose. "Have you seen the company around here?" He sighs. "Prome has a lot of growing to do, but I'd rather she do that in the safety of Mundi rather than here." There's a contemplative look on Rose's face. "Do you truly have any idea who you're sending her away with? I'm still not sure you believe what I told you yesterday. Untold dangers await me, and I can't guarantee her safety. I would be better to leave her somewhere once I arrive at the capital." However, at that, the stone-faced Sealing belts out in full-faced laughter. "With you? No, good grief, no. I would not inflict that brat on anyone who was unprepared for it. All you have to do is get her to the capital. I have a friend who's been looking for a budding apprentice for a while." However, Rose is slightly stunned at this. Did she project her own situation from her childhood onto Prome, after sticking to Hughes for all those years? She takes out the doll and looks down sadly. "I get it now, Hughes. I'm sorry for the nuisance I was." The doll waggles slightly. "About 300 years late, you brat, but apology accepted." However, Rose can tell there's no bite behind the remark. Sealing, however, hearing the doll speak for the first time, looks down in a slight pause, before looking back to Rose. "I see. Anyway, when you arrive on Monday, Elspeth Yardley owns an alchemy store called the Glass Hag on the Minstrel Belt. I don't exactly have a map of the city, but ask around, you'll find it eventually." Rose nods in agreement, but sighs. "All right, I got it, but you might want to address the elephant in the room and tell her to get ready." "Meanwhile, how long is the travel to Mundi?" Sealing throws a quick glance outside. "It should take you 2 days by foot to reach the capital, with enough daylight." "You mean tree light," Rose responds with a childish grin. Sealing, however, doesn't acknowledge this before sticking his head out of the kitchen. "Prome, go get ready. You're going to Mundi." The childish squeals can be heard from the kitchen as he brings his head back in and turns to Rose. "Well, that's all that sorted. Do you need any help getting prepared for your journey?" Rose pauses before looking down. "I'd kill for a bag of holding." Sealing quickly scoffs upon hearing this. "Good grief, if anyone had that here, they'd be for sure keeping it to themselves. And if Blorg had one, you'd bet he'd be selling it at a premium. Think you'd best try your luck elsewhere." Rose hums in thought at this. 300 years has passed after all. She doesn't know how things have depreciated. "Yeah? Are they more rare in general, or just in this area? It seems like one could make a killing from buying things outside and bringing them back if that's the case. Sealing hums as he pulls the kettle off the flame. Mostly, but most people squabble over copper here. It's a lot of the bare necessities rather than the luxuries. Rose also glances outside at this. Really? That much of a struggle here, huh? I suppose that might be why it seems like I got my gear at a bit of a discount. Food seems to sell well enough, though. However, she stops to think for a minute. If it's going to take us a couple of days, does Prom have camping gear? I've only got one set. Sealing waves his hand dismissively at this. Don't worry, I'll make sure she packs that, as well as ensuring her bag isn't going to be full of marbles and crayons. However, Rose's eyebrows lift at this. Oh, but I like crayons and marbles. I best not say that too loud, huh? Sealing turns with a gentle glare. Good choice. You've got about 20 minutes before it's time to go. What will you do? Rose hums pensively. I guess I'll just get some stretching in. Not much else. The doll speaks up. So, what do we do with the inevitable tantrum that comes when she finds out her brother's not coming? Sealing sighs at this. Not really much you can do. She's more adaptable than you think, but if it persists, just threaten to kick her back into the swamps. Best thing is, she'll believe you too. Rose's jaw drops slightly. I can't in good conscience do that. But Hughes probably could. The doll scoffs. Like that's ever worked on you. Do you know how much of an absolute terror she was as a scamp? There's a knowing grin that slowly devolves into a facial expression that can only be described as experiencing several years' worth of cringeworthy memories from your childhood all at once. But the doll continues on sarcastically. Oh, but it was rewarding all the same. Such good memories, like that time she started doing the worm in front of everyone during a fairy play. Her face goes bright red immediately and starts squeezing the doll repeatedly. I think that's enough out of him for now. Let's do something else, shall we? As she turns to leave, the only thing that can be heard is, Hi, I'm Hughes, go fuck... Hi, I'm Hughes. Hi, I'm Hughes, go fuck... Hi, I'm Hughes. Hi, I'm Hughes, go fuck yourself. Some time passes, the bags are packed, and eventually they all end up at the door. Sealing kneels down and pats Prom gently on the shoulder. All right, you be on your best behaviour now, otherwise Rose and the doll are going to march you back here, and you won't be having any cranberry tarts for a month. Prom nods her head enthusiastically. Okay, I promise. Sealing nods to this. You'll be staying with Grandma Yardley while you're in the capital. She'll take care of you, and if she looks a little mean... Sealing whispers something into Prom's ear before coming back out and nodding. Got it? Prom knits her eyebrows together in pensive comprehension before nodding again. Okay, that sounds easy enough. She looks between Sealing and Rose, indicating that she's ready to go. Offering a nod and smile to Sealing, Rose hoists up her bag and waves farewell to Sealing. Take care. See you again soon. Rose is ecstatic that she won't have to climb these ladders down into the swamps for a while, nor walk these waterlogged walkways. With any luck, this will be the last she sees of the Marsh Amaras for some time. After a short walk, Rose turns to Prom. So, have you ever been to Monday before? Nope, I've been living with my brother all my life, she responds. I see, Rose says, looking ahead. This will be a first-time trip for both of us then. Rose runs ahead a few steps before framing the giant tree in the distance between her arms. It's going to be hard for us to get lost when we're heading towards the tree. However, as someone who's seen the tree all of her life, Prom looks at Rose as if she just told her that air exists. Yeah? Have you never seen a tree before? Rose stumbles at this. This tree? Surprisingly, yes. But I was more making a joke that, navigation and... Never mind. They continue trudging through the swamp. The fog sets, and after hours of walking, they eventually decide it's time to settle down for the night. The hours of walking have left both Rose and Prom sufficiently tired, enough so that taking out the rations and setting up the tent is enough to drain them for the rest of the night. Rose does the rounds of scouting the campsite for the night to ensure that it's safe for sleeping. By the time she arrives back, she finds Hughes sitting next to Prom, who's completely knocked out. He looks up to Rose. Heh, just like when you were young, only you drooled way more. I had to wonder if you were part dog. However, Rose seems more concerned at something else at the moment. Yeah, but I've never really seen you act like this before. Are you feeling alright? Hugh scoffs at this. Clearly you've never seen me with the chumps at the orphanage. I see that all the orphanage touring that you do has never helped you pick up on some kid skills, despite being from an orphanage yourself. Rosa's facial expression drops slightly. I'm more for supporting the organisations that run them and help the staff that take care of the kids. I'm thankful for the institution that allowed me to have a life, rather than for the kids themselves. I don't know, perhaps that's why I've never really been good with kids. She sighs, learning more about herself than she thought she would in this new situation. Despite not having facial muscles, the doll's grin can be heard in his speech. Guess I can kiss having grandkids goodbye with that attitude then. Yeah, glad for that though. Get that shit away from me. Rose chuckles slightly as she sits herself down. Let's be honest, with how I'm more into girls and you're more into things that come from books titled Don't Stick Your Dick in That, I'm pretty sure neither of us were having kids anytime soon. Hughes blows a raspberry at that. That's all the better then, carpet muncher. Wouldn't recommend them, unless you get saddled with them like I did. Rose, knowing this a joke, can't help but glance into the tent in the moment, remembering she thought that's exactly where this was going. Yeah, sorry if I was ever a burden. Honestly, was never sure growing up, you know? Hughes' tone softened slightly. Honestly, I was hoping to pitch you off into another city at first opportunity. Into an actually competent orphanage that didn't let their kids run around like free-range chickens anyway. But then I thought, I'll do it tomorrow, and that became the day after, then the week after, then another week. Even before the Haros thing, I had stopped counting the days. If you were here to stay, you were here to stay. And if your divine sugar daddy thought it was such a bright idea saddling me with his little champion, why, I just have to personally show him what a clusterfuck of an idea that was, right? Rose smiles at this. She knows he's thinking that he's a bad influence. Well, I wouldn't be the person I am without your influence, and I'm happy with who I am. So, sorry to burst your bubble, but to me, you're a great influence. Caradoc probably didn't agree, but it was still funny. Hughes also laughs at this. Great, I'll wear it out then. Chosen approved beehive menace. Mankind is doomed, the sensibilities of their champion sullied, and it's all thanks to me. And also fuck what that King Prude thinks. Given the level of annoyance she felt about him, Rose doesn't really feel as much care about what she says. Well, he was human, so he's very likely dead now. Unless someone like Edmund found immortality, in which case, if he is still here, they didn't catapult me forward far enough in time. Hughes cackles at this. I guess even as far as scraps of your old life goes, he's at the bottom of the barrel, huh? For all those sharpshooting skills and mobility you've lost, at least you've still got standards. Rose gives an exhausted sigh at this. Every girl wants to be a princess, but he made it seem so unappealing. At least being his queen. Kirkwald is nice and all, but I'm not the ruling type. The visceral gagging noises the doll makes is making Rose glad that it doesn't have a tangible mouth. Ugh, I wouldn't even want to drop by for an unwelcome family visit if you shacked up there. Want to bet the current day Kirkwald is a fractured boghole as well? She chuckles at the gagging noises before glancing out to the tree. I can't say I'm not curious. An instant 300 years have passed. Wars and a world tree have happened. I certainly do want to go and check out what happened at the very least. Hughes tuts. Not nose clothes at least. Goblins' hand-me-downs. You look like everything but your wardrobe hit puberty. There's a grin on Rose's face. You act like I'm not planning on cleaning my clothes the moment I have access to water that will not stain it worse. Trust me, I want out of them just as badly as they look. No offence, Sealing. The doll chuckles at her mild problem. Alright. Sooner you wake up with your wits about you, the sooner you can go shopping at Hot Topic. You jest, she says, but I might look for a weaver to make some extra sets of my dress. Not only is this now blood-stained and torn, but I'd like some more. Are you alright with still being on watch? The doll hums affirmatively, like it'd kill him to actually say a plain yes or no for once. Thanks. What do you do when I'm sleeping? You're just awake? Quietly all by yourself? Do you not get bored? Bored. the doll mauls with genuine pensiveness. I feel it sometimes, like a sneeze that comes and goes, but it doesn't bother me, almost as if this was how it was meant to be, quiet and still, nestled by some young girl's pillow. I'm sorry, she says. I'll see if I can find a way to do anything about it. Give me some time, all right? The doll flails slightly. What is there anything to do? Don't get yourself into a tizzy over it. Now stop yapping and get some snooze in. You'll trip yourself up before the starting line at this rate. Rose begins climbing into the tent before looking back down at Hughes. Isn't that what I've always done? Worried about the end goal right as soon as it becomes apparent that there is one? Nope, that's you all right, the doll chuckles fondly in her direction. Sleep well, Peanut. Rose settles down for the night on the bedroll next to Prom, hugging a warm plushie of her own. She's thankful that the tatter tent is big enough for two, even if the goblin herself takes up a quarter of the space. The doll is placed at the flap of the tent once more as she wraps up warm and closes her eyes. She's in a deep slumber when a gentle hand brushes strands of hair away from her face. It's a familiar and welcoming touch. Upon waking the next morning, they pack up the tent, have a quick breakfast, and get things ready for the day's trek ahead. It takes around 4 hours of trekking as they walk up the hill and find themselves crossing a rickety bridge. The tree is closer now and bathing everything in its golden rays. As they clear the bridge and find themselves on the other side on firm and dry land for the first time in days, Rose looks down at herself covered in mud. She throws herself onto the ground as if praising the fact that something other than swamp actually exists. She can't help but let out a satisfied sigh. We're finally out of it. Gods above, it's been tiresome. Even the inanimate doll seems relieved. Thank fuck, I thought it was going to be stagnant bog water for days. The tired Prom is a little confused by their behaviour, but takes this opportunity to sit down and let out a puff of breath as she looks around at the wheat fields. There's foxtail here, she says, stroking at a sprig of wheat, but it's so yellow and there's no water. Rose turns to this. Prom, that's wheat. This type of land grows different kinds of plants. Wheat is used to make bread and cakes. Have you ever had sweet cake before? Rose asks this in curiosity, but assumes the answer is no. Prom raises her eyes in curiosity. This is wheat? I mean, I've had bread. We had toast, and I've had cranberry tart before. There's no mention of cakes. Rose, in disbelief of this, lays down onto the ground, staring straight up into the sky. Hughes, we gotta go to a bakery. Imagine what's changed in 300 years. The doll, strangely unenthused about the concept of sugar, responds, I don't know, maybe about as much as they've changed the fish around here. Rose begins rolling around in the grass, attempting to get as much caked off dirt off of her as she can. All the more reason to go, but if you'd rather sit in my backpack so you don't see what you can't have, I understand. After a few moments of standing and brushing herself off, she turns towards the city once more. It'll do. Shall we press on? I'd like to get this done while we have as much tree light as we have. She tells the same joke. It's still not funny, and the doll does nothing but groan. They continue trekking through the fields and orchards. It's a damn sight better than the bogs, and smells of it too. Like baskets of fresh apples, sun-kissed grass and wheat, a breeze in the air. The picturesque environs are only ruined by the two muddy things shambling towards them in a golden tree. As much as it looks like the Kelowna that she knew, there are still stark reminders that it is anything but. The sparse bodies of water, the jutted, elevated lands, and the all-present roots appearing here and there. In the distance, she hears the sounds of hooves. A white horse she spies, almost as white as the robed figure that's riding it. And it does not take long for the white horse to get closer, striding down the road with a slow, relaxed gait. The helmeted illuminate regards them with an odd but casual glance. Pardon my comment, ladies, but it looks like you've just fought a mud pit and lost. Rose, having learned that the last time these people have some bullshit that lets them see through accents, she doesn't even bother attempting. Yes, we've just come from the swamps. I see. The illuminate nods his head back in understanding. At least you don't look too worse for wear. There's a decent bathhouse on Mincing Lane if you're on your way to the capital. We are indeed. Thank you for the recommendation. It will be sorely needed. Additionally, when we arrive, we're looking for the glass hag on the minstrel belt. It's our first time in the city, so any guidance you can offer would be appreciated. The Illuminate takes a moment to offer some directions to Rose and Prom. My thanks again. Rose lowers her head in a nod/respectful thanks. I'm sure it shan't take too long for me to acclimate to the changes. The Illuminate smiles. The Holy See of Monday welcomes all. There will be a small toll required at the city gates for entry. I assume you have enough? Rose pauses at this. I did not know. How much is the toll? I should probably have enough. The Illuminate responds. 1 gold per adult, 5 silver for minors. He glances at Prom. Prom seems to be pointing towards the horse. Can I pet? The Illuminate chuckles. No, not this one, little girl. Snowball is a menace to society. Rose thanks her coin purse for the work she did the day before. Yes, we'll be fine for the toll then. Thank you for your assistance. The bathhouse calls to us. The Illuminate returns a bow, palms pressed together. May you both bask in the light, and some soothing waters. He laughs as he sets away on his horse once more, clopping away towards the direction that they came from. Hughes pipes up after the robed man disappears out of earshot. I guess that's one good thing about being a doll. Cartha tolls were a pain in the ass. Rose nods. Yes, they were. Now let's go. I've never been so glad to be told about a bathhouse in all my life. They continue walking towards the tree, along the well-travelled road, passing by acres and acres of fertile land for an hour more. Their feet ache, and they are tired, though it is still bright out. They're not sure what time it is, but such disorientation is normal if they were walking towards the sun. Grand stone walls peek out from the horizon. They're nowhere near the base of the tree, yet somehow they feel as if they've reached their destination. Golden light on terracotta roofs and white walls surrounded by the roots of the sophist. They've arrived at their destination, the Holy See of Monday.